and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that helps you become your best self, and today we are talking about, is your self-worth dependent on other people's appreciation? Which basically we're talking about feeling insignificant. But before we jump into that, as always, I want to invite you to come say hi to me on social media. I am at Sabrina Joy Perozzo on both TikTok and Instagram, so I hope to see you there. Quick update that I've been slowly updating the YouTube channel, so if you'd like to if you would prefer to watch the podcast or listen to it on YouTube because that's easier for you, it is slowly getting caught up. I have about 15 more episodes to upload, but I can't do them all in one day because that will trigger YouTube to think something is fishy. So I'm doing it slowly, like one by one every day. So just keep checking up on that. Eventually, by the end of the year, we will catch up, you guys. Probably sooner than that. I'm just, being dramatic. So check that out if you want to watch the podcast as opposed to just listen to it. And if you have any topic suggestions, questions, comments, concerns, pro requests, whatever you need, you're welcome to send me an email. You can find all that information as well as how to spell my my name on social media down in the show notes below. All of that stuff is there. And the one thing I want to highlight to you, actually two things, is number one, there is a newsletter that comes out every Wednesday evening. Sign up for that. The link is down there as well. There's other links down there I won't go through to try to keep this quick. But the other thing I want to highlight is, again, if you haven't heard, I did create a planner journal. Yes, that is what it's called. A planner journal that is geared towards people that want to work on their emotional health, but they want to do it very quickly. This is not going to require any sort of long, drawn out journaling sessions. It's literally like one page a day. And then there are pages to do a weekly update and a monthly update and other resources in this planner journal that will go on pre-sale really soon. And if you are interested in that, I encourage you to follow me on Instagram, where I actually have a highlight already going called the planner. And the planner is actually called Emotions Every Day, but it gives you all me talking about the planner and it being in development. And actually, I recently got physical proof of it, so you can see actually me holding it and briefly showing you what it looks like. So if you're interested in that, and then you can decide whether you want to pre-order it or not, because obviously for pre-order, it will be cheaper than it will after pre-order and just buying it on the regular. So I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited about it. I think it'll help a lot of you. And I know that well, actually, I won't show it on the video because by the time this video goes up, it'll be so super late. But yeah, and if you have questions about it, feel free to send me an email, send me a DM, whatever. I am just so super proud of it, and I know that it'll be a super helpful resource for everyone to use. So let's just go ahead and jump into today's topic, which again is your self-worth dependent on other people's appreciation? So I think, in all honesty, I didn't actually count. So if you are someone that does follow me on social media, I'm sure you'll know the answer. But I think I've made 3 or 4 videos about this topic over the last week or so because it's really been hitting me hard, like really, 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 really hard. And it's because I am victim to comparison, comparing myself to other people. I struggle with that a lot, but I know what I'm supposed to do to release it, and that's why it's important for me to share with people all the time, is that we are continually on a journey of becoming our best self every single day. So just because you've put all this work in to shift your mindset and create a stronger mindset does not mean that tomorrow you'll be totally fine and you will not struggle. No, you will struggle. You'll still struggle, and that's okay. And you just continue to put the work in every single day. And when things do happen, you will be able to respond a lot better than you used to. So you feel like the struggle isn't as bad, and maybe the consequences aren't as bad, and things like that. But yeah, I struggle so much with my self worth and feeling insignificant. And a lot of my life, was spent believing I was less than everyone else and insignificant because it always felt like no one noticed me or cared what I was doing. And I would often describe it as feeling invisible. And I've had that feeling my entire life. And I was even, regaling my husband of that tale the other day because I was at a breaking point. When you get to a breaking point and you just let all your emotions loose and you cry and you just let it all out. And honestly, at the end, I always feel great. It's just really hard getting through that point because you're just crying and everyone's like, why are you upset? And, And you're just trying to like push through and just like process all these feelings that you have, and that some that you have been dealing with as time goes on, but others you've just kind of like, locked in the closet and they just burst out because it became too full, which is why I always talk about how we need to honor our emotions when they happen, which I know it's something that we all need to spend more time actually practicing so that it does become a habit. And even for me, sometimes I just like stuff things away because it doesn't feel like the right time to let that emotion loose, if that makes sense. So anyway, it's 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 difficult. It's difficult. But yeah, so because also I was a people pleaser growing up, and as I told you, I'm probably like on recovery from that uh, for the most part for like 5 years or so, I would say. I still struggle with that, but mostly I don't. I've like been able to like remember like, oh, I don't need to be like that. But I was a people pleaser. So that didn't really help because my main job as a people pleaser was to make sure everyone else was front and center, right? They were the star of the show, and I was making sure that they were the star of the show. I was backstage making sure everything was going well in a sense of their lives. And I was highlighting everyone else and not spending any time on myself. So I actually think it's funny, of course, only in retrospect, right? Because like then it definitely was not funny. But I actually think it's funny because I was so determined to put myself last, yet still had this feeling of being invisible and not wanting to be. Like, I was like, oh, I did all this action towards being invisible, yet I didn't want to be invisible. So I was basically like working against myself, getting in my own way, which is a common occurrence. And so that is like why I struggled so hard with like wanting one thing, but being caught up in another. And when I think about it now, I'm just like, oh man, what is wrong with me? It's like a part of me was crying out to like be released from this people pleaser behavior. I was like, we don't need to do this. Let's not do this anymore. But I didn't have a strong enough will to actually break free from it. So it was just like, oh, this is just where we are right now. And luckily I've been able to break away from that. But and then now fully like, really work deeply on self-worth and not wanting to feel invisible. But the other day, I definitely was like really in my feels about it. I was really in my feels, and my husband, he was even, this is like an aside, but my husband was even commenting on how I've made this big accomplishment, which was creating the planner journal, which was like a big endeavor and thing that I worked on for such a long time and had a dream of for so much longer, like before that, right? And I actually did it. And he was like, it's common for people to like feel depressed or feel sad or feel down when they have, accomplished something really big, because it's like it's all ending. And for me, it's like I get that because, I did the thing. I've seen it in person, and now I have to make edits and send it back and then get the copies and actually sell them, which is also probably the more vulnerable part than actually, that's probably the harder part than actually doing the work, because the work is super fun. Selling it, it's not going to be as fun because my insecurities will be on display of like, oh my gosh, what if people don't like it? What if they don't buy it? Like, and my husband's like, it doesn't matter whether they buy it or not. Like, you did something, you accomplished something amazing. There's going to be people that appreciate it, and there's going to be people that don't. And so I got a whole pep talk from him, which was fan friggin' tastic. But it was just like, it was tough. I was so in, and it's been a while since I've had that much of a breakdown due to feeling insignificant, feeling less than, feeling invisible. Usually I'm able to keep a pretty like strong mindset of like, no, I'm just different. I'm in a different season, even if we're like feels like everything in our lives are identical. It's not. We've dealt with our own things in the past, and we are moving and grooving in our own way. But I was falling apart. And but I'm glad I did. You know, it sucked then, and looking back on it, like I know that sometimes people will feel embarrassed, and I have in the past, but I'm not embarrassed of this because it was kind of like a breakthrough for me to be like, okay, listen, you need to get your crap together. You need to strengthen your mindset because you're about to go into an even the harder part of this whole thing, and you need to be prepared. And that's how I like, you know, gave my own self a pep talk after I'd already received a pep talk from my husband. But anyway, my own things aside, this is a struggle many of us have, right? but we just don't speak up about it because despite the fact that we want to be recognized, we want people to pat us on the back, we want that validation, we want that recognition, we want people to be like, hey, you're awesome, right? We don't want to look selfish by bringing those feelings up, right? It feels like a catch-22 if you've ever read that book. And I feel like people know what that is anyway, even if you weren't forced to read the book in like middle school. But it feels like a catch-22 and you can't win either way, right? You're like, you know, you're like, okay, well, I will just feel invisible and then no one will think I'm selfish, but then I'm still stuck in this feeling. Or I will decide to share with someone like what I'm feeling and how to get out of it, but then it feels like people are like, oh my gosh, well, why are you trying to make it all about you and being selfish? And you're like, you don't want to be labeled as either thing. But again, you feel like you can't win, but you can. You can win. It's just that the only way you can win is by honoring those emotions that you're feeling, which is what I did the other day. I cried it out, just let it all out. I was like, this is how I'm feeling. And digging deeper into where those feelings came from, where did they originate? Okay, well, actually, how those were developed, right? That would be the origination, which is the next part of that sentence that I was going to say. But like, where do those feelings come from? Like, what triggered it, right? You're like, why am I all of a sudden feeling insignificant? And in my sense, I think it was that I was so frustrated with videos, which is I'm not going to go on a rant of this because I think it's annoying that some people are. And that's just my personal opinion. But I was frustrated that I had been putting so much content up on Instagram specifically, and I feel like no one was seeing it, and it wasn't I guess in this like really egotistical way being appreciated, and I do truly in my heart believe in the whole like, whoever's going to see it, that's who needs to see it and it's going to help them and that's going to be great, right? But it's still like, that creator side, that person that's putting in the work is still like, well, why aren't more people seeing this, right? And I was just like really upset. And that was what actually, that's where the feelings came from. I was just so fed up. I was like, oh my gosh, like why don't more people care about my desire to share tips on how to better your mindset and your mental health? And a lot of people would just be like, well, it's because Instagram sucks right now. And it's just like, well, I guess. And that's fine. It's having its own struggles. We won't go into that. But it just, I let myself get down. I let myself just feel the way I was because I was just like, you know what? I'm sick of just pretending like this isn't bothering me. It is bothering me. And so you go from digging into deeper, like where those feelings came from, and then you were like, how were those developed? And for me, they were developed over time of continuing to put in the work and post content, and no one like, not feeling like anyone was showing up to see it or anyone was able to find it and like wherever it was categorized on the interwebs, right? And then the next one would be why you continue to believe these limiting beliefs, right? So why do I continue to believe that I am insignificant, I'm small, I am invisible? And it's because I am relying on the validation of Instagram, a platform that is out there to make money, and I'm not putting any money into that. So it's not showing my content, or for whatever other reasons that don't matter. I am putting all my validation into that platform to tell me whether I am doing a good job or not. I'm doing a good job. I can tell myself that right now after like, crying it out and really feeling it. I know that I am. And just because like it's low views and only like 6 people like it, okay, fine. But maybe those 6 people were really impacted, or maybe it was like 5 of my friends that are just respectful, and then one person that was like, oh my gosh, this was helpful. And that's all that matters, right? And it's interesting because I've actually felt that way about the podcast from the jump. And it's like not changed at all. From the jump of starting this podcast almost 3 years ago, I was like, it doesn't matter how many downloads I get. And it doesn't matter, like, those vanity metrics don't matter to me because I am making the podcast solely for the reason to help people that need that resource of like real talk mental health and mindset tips, and also doing the research and bringing scientific research in a way, but also making it a lot easier to understand in a more like conversational way, right? And that's been my goal for the whole time. And I've never been like, oh my gosh, I'm so upset that I'm not hitting this number. I've hit a lot of milestones and I'm super grateful for them. But I've never felt that way about this podcast that I have about stupid Instagram. And I'm trying to get over it because it's like, you know, It's just like you feel like you need to build communities everywhere, right? And I do think it's important now that I'm starting to like sell products. And let's be real here. I would love for this, all of these things to be my like full-time job. I would love more people to listen to the podcast so that eventually I could monetize it. That'd be great. And I want people to buy the planner journal that I am making, and then all the other products I'm making, especially since I don't like offer services for people to pay for. I'm not a coach. That's not my thing. It's not my thing. I'm here to provide knowledge, and then you get to decide what you do with it. So anyway, that would be my answer for, why do I continue to believe these limiting beliefs? Because I'm allowing something else that's outside of my control, like validate whether I am doing enough or not. And then the last part of that is, what are you willing to do to be free from feeling like this so often? And I guess my personal answer would be, I need to stop relying on things outside of myself to provide validation of whether I am doing a good job, whether I'm doing enough, whether it's the right thing to do or not. And I need to find that internally. I need to seek that out and find it internally and rely on that, because that is what matters. And then also for me, God, because that's, I am a Christian and I fully believe on, God and wow, that sounded silly, of God, and like, doing everything I'm doing is for him and his kingdom. And that's fine if you don't believe that. That's totally fine. But that's just like where I'm at. So it's like that's what I need to do. And so again, like, you can win. You can not feel like this for so long, if you are able to honor your emotions and then go through these steps of, where do the feelings come from? How are they developed? Why do you continue to believe these limiting beliefs? And what are you willing to do to feel free from this so often, feeling like this feeling? And, those are, and you're probably like, Sabrina, is that really all the steps? And no, it's not. Those aren't the steps that I actually created. That's just like a quick basic formula of like, if you want to do it quick and dirty, then you can just do those things, especially if you're already experienced in self-awareness and like figuring out your emotions and really digging deeper. That's going to be easy for you. I do have more tips. We're going to get to them in just a second. Another reason is it's so important to talk about this topic is because it is soul crushing. Let's just be honest. It is soul crushing to walk around and live your life believing you are invisible and not as worthy as other people, right? Some days it won't bother you as much, which is where I was for a while. And then other days it will eat you alive, which is where I ended up. And that's why I was just like, oh, crying. We are here crying. And other days still it will fester into nasty comparison with jealousy and envy on board, right? You're just like so upset that no one recognizes you and what you do and all this stuff. And then you're like upset at other people, projecting your insecurities out into the world because you haven't decided to take that time to really dig into your emotions. It's not a good situation, right? It's not. So it's important for us to talk about this and talk about what we can do to get from under it, right? So let's talk about how we can pull away from this mindset of feeling invisible and insignificant and more towards something more neutral in the least, right? Or even inching more towards appreciation of ourselves, which that's not necessarily directly what we're talking about today, but I think that it would be good to talk more about that in the future. But I do have like other podcasts that do talk about self-worth a little bit, and confidence, and loving yourself more, and all those things, if you do want to listen to those next. Before we get into the list, as always, all of this is based on my own knowledge and research, the experiences I've gone through and experiences of others that I'm able to share. If you feel like these tips do not fit with you, then I would encourage you to talk to a therapist or a counselor about it and really kind of dig deeper into like what you think would be the best way for you to pull away from this mindset. Or go to your best friend Google and type that in, like how to not feel invisible, how to not feel insignificant, not how to work on your self-worth, and then maybe you'll find some answers there. Okay, let's jump in. We have 8. Let's get to it. So this first one is, be aware. And this is, okay, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say this is not in any particular order. It kind of is, but just more of the sake of like, you could do this before this. It doesn't matter. So do what you want. Be aware. The first one is be aware of what triggers these feelings. So what triggered it? And that's kind of like in the formula that I already shared. Like what set you off to start feeling this way? For me, stupid Instagram like views on my reels. For you, maybe it was like being in a situation where someone else was being honored or praised or loved on and you weren't. Or maybe it was someone taking you for granted for the things that you do. Or maybe it was someone like downplaying and kind of, humble bragging about their things, but then like downplaying your things. Like whatever the case may be, figure out what triggered these feelings that you have, and then you need to honor those feelings. That's the attachment to this. So be aware of what triggers those feelings and then honor those feelings. Be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I'm really upset, or I'm really angry, or I'm disappointed, or I'm devastated, or whatever. And then play out those feelings like, okay, well, I am because I'm devastated because of this and this, and then this is causing me to feel this, and it's spiraling down into this, and then maybe you need to cry or scream or yell or jump or run or whatever. And just let it all out of you. Like, let it be released into the world because it matters. I promise you, it matters. So be aware of what triggers your feelings and then honor those feelings. Number 2, what is the fear that is holding you in this mindset? I almost phrased this question of like, is there a fear? And I was like, nope, there is a fear. There is something, right? My fear for this stupid Instagram Reels thing is that I fear me doing all of this work all for nothing. And I fear that I will never like be able to pull all this together to make a business or make a profit so I can like, you know, have this as my job, especially since I enjoy it so much. You know? Also being seen as someone that's just like, for whatever reason, not good at what I'm doing, even though people have told me that I am. It's just silly the way the mindset works. So what is your fear? What is the fear that is holding you in this mindset of feeling like you're small, you're insignificant, you're invisible? Like maybe being judged for who you are as a person or how you grew up or how you act or whatever. Maybe your fear of like your insecurities, like the insecurities that you have, and like people seeing those and be having to be vulnerable about that, and that could really suck, right? Or for being at the same level as someone, or for not being at the same level as someone else, and maybe someone else is comparing you to someone else, right? And now that's a fear of like, oh man, now I have to like, level up, or I have to like continue to push towards being the same or more than this other person, or else I will just be insignificant, like ghost. No one will see me. Nothing will matter. So figure out what your fear is that is holding you in this mindset. And it doesn't need to be multiple, it could just be one, but it could be multiple. So you can really like, again, you're getting down to the nitty gritty, you're getting deeper to those sub level emotions and reasons and understandings of who you are and why this is bubbling to the surface, right? Okay, number 3, are you participating in your life? This was such an interesting one. When I was doing research and I was like, oh, you know what? Yes, perfect, amazing. And I also think that I was a victim to this. Victim, silly. But yeah, to this for a long while. But are you participating in your life? If you are, checked out of your life and not trying to foster relationships or share your own opinions or shake up your routine so it's not always the same or try new experiences or, push yourself to do more, then you're not trying to enjoy your life. You're letting it sit stagnant. You're just scrolling on all social medias and just like, passing people by, doing their life, or people invite you out to things, you never go, and you don't have like a real reason as to why. Or you don't challenge yourself, or you don't shake up your routine of what you do in the morning or the nighttime, or like the food that you eat, or the place that you work out, or what books you read, or what podcasts you're listening to, or what TV shows you like, or places to meet friends, or grocery stores to shop, or whatever, or recipes to try. Like, it doesn't matter, like, whatever it is. If you're not doing anything and you're always doing the same things and you're not trying to interact with people, you're not like, and this is coming from an introvert. So I'm not saying you have to be out there like the life of the party. Absolutely not. But if you're not trying to do a little bit, then you're not really participating in life. And of course you feel invisible because no one sees you. You're not a part of anything, and that might sound harsh, but it's just true. If you're not actually doing anything in life, then of course no one's going to see you in life, right? And also, I'm really sorry if you thought you were coming into this list of tips of how to no longer feel insignificant and invisible, and you thought it was all going to be tips about how none of it's your fault and it's like just the fault of like your environment or how you grew up. Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. A lot of the things that we go through are self-imposed, things that we cause to ourselves or things that we let go on too long, right? And we have to come to terms with that. We have to take responsibility for that. And even in that vein, randomly throwing this in today, which I record these on Sundays to go up on Mondays, my daughter was telling me like, "Oh my gosh, you're giving me anxiety," when I was telling her to go do something that's outside of her comfort zone. And I literally looked her dead in the eyes. And this is not the first time that she's heard me say this, but I looked her dead in the eyes and I was like, I do not cause you to feel any way. You decide your emotions. You decide your feelings. Maybe what I said triggered you to have anxiety and feel like you're in a panic attack and just continue to let it go up and up and up in a more intense fashion, but you're choosing to allow yourself to do that rather than asking for a timeout, rather than just asking that I tell you more about what I'm asking to do, whatever the reason is. Okay? And that's taking your responsibility for your emotions because you get to choose. You can't, you can, but you're wrong when you're trying to project that responsibility onto someone else. So take responsibility, participate in life, and you will feel less insignificant once you really find that spot where you want to be. Okay, number 4. Again, out of 8, you guys. Where we were trucking through though. Number 4, work on setting personal boundaries and dialing back people pleaser behaviors. The reason that I suggest that you work on setting personal boundaries or resetting those is because a lot of times we can feel insignificant or small or less than or invisible because we are being taken for granted or we are being manipulated or walked all over. And so we're doing everything for everyone else, which also rolls into people pleasing, when we could just set boundaries to be like, because you continue really like, people are like, oh, do this for me, but then they never want to do anything for you. And then nothing is ever about you, which everyone needs to have a time where it's about them. And you need to make it about yourself sometimes. But you have to set those boundaries and be like, listen, I do a lot. I need to spend some time working on myself, so I cannot overindulge in this thing with you to help you. Which also, again, dialing back people-pleasing behaviors. You need to be able to set those boundaries. You need to be able to say no. You need to be able to tell people that, no, I need to work on myself. And they're going to get upset and they're going to get mad because they're used to getting their way. And so, you might think that they might try to tell you that you're in the wrong for doing this. And they have done this and that for you, which is like just a really manipulative way of people trying to keep you reeled in and in their control. But you need to say no and be like, nope, I need to focus on myself. I have all these feelings and these emotions. I need to address them, and I cannot do that when I'm basically under your rule and doing what you want to have done and supporting you fully and not taking the time to support myself. So work on setting personal boundaries. Work on dialing back people-pleasing behaviors. If you need more information on tackling people-pleasing behaviors, I do have several episodes on that. And personal boundaries, I did do episodes a long time ago, the first year of the podcast. And I do plan on doing more soon because I want to do them before Thanksgiving and Christmas come up, so people have something to listen to before holidays, because I know that my biggest problem was having personal boundaries before holiday time. And so those will be coming up soon-ish. So that's number 4. Number 5. Number 5 is to release the need to compare yourself to others. Release the need to compare yourself to others. First off, if you need help on this, there's also an episode of this podcast that actually is the most downloaded episode of the podcast. At first, for a long time, it was just like the first episode because people would just jump in on the first episode and then to see how it is. And then they would just find the topic that fits them best. But actually, the podcast episode that's like actually downloaded the most so far is how to not let other people's opinions control you. And so this can fit very well into releasing the need to compare yourself to others, because you're comparing, like, people are putting judgments and opinions on you, and that sucks. But also you're comparing yourself. So you're also putting your own opinions and judgments on yourself based upon this other person that you feel like you are right in line with, but you are not matching up in the ways that you want to match up. But that's just not going to happen. There's going to be times where you link up in the same seasons as other people and you kind of are both on the same journey, but then it's going to dramatically change. One person's going this way, the other person's going this way. You're both going this way, but they're here and you're here, and then it flip-flops, and then it just changes. And a lot of times we do this with people online, myself included, but it's because we don't see every nitty-gritty detail of their life. We don't know what they're actually really struggling with. I don't care if they promise you that they show you every single moment of their life. There are things they're not showing you. There are things that are not going well, that they are keeping back because that's personal to them. And even if they are sharing their heartbreaks and their struggles online, sometimes it's later, right? Not when it's super fresh and they're crying all the time. Or you do recognize that you see people online that are very vulnerable and honest and do share everything that they are going through. But you forget about those moments because the glitz and the glamour are the things that kind of stick in our minds to want to compare ourselves to and be like, okay, well, I have all their same problems. Why can't I have all their same benefits and happiness and joys that they're having, right? So we need to work on releasing the need to compare ourselves to others, because then we won't feel as insignificant, because then we're more focusing on what we're good at and what we're strong in and what we need to continue to work towards and what we've already achieved and all the amazing things that detail who we are and how amazing we are in our own right. And the fact that we don't feel like we sparkle like them is because they are putting on the sparkle and you're not. You got to put on your own sparkles. You got to put on your own crown. You got to put on your own sparkly robe and whatevers, and have the self-confidence to be out there believing in yourself and living up your best life, because they're doing that. And you're probably like, they're not doing that. Yes, they are. This is why they're sharing it online. I'm not saying they're sharing it online to brag or anything. They're just, the fact that they have the confidence to share that online, they put their sparkle on. You just need to put your sparkle on. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is celebrate what you've done and what you're working towards. Easy one, right? Celebrate what you're doing. So for me, what I had to do, part of me feeling insignificant and invisible the other day, was for me to remember, wow, I just achieved this really big goal. I just created my first product. It's a real thing, a real thing. It's a book with pages that I touched, 145 pages. And I designed it all on my own, no templates. I guess the emotion wheel would count as a template, but that I just added it. But everything else, it's yeah, I was inspired by other ideas, but I made it. I created it. This is my thing. I'm celebrating it. And the day that I got the physical proof in the mail and I did an unboxing of it and I shared it online, it was a great day. I celebrated it. So I'm celebrating what I've done, and then I'm also celebrating what I can do. I've already had plans on what's going to happen in the future, writing a book, all these other things. And other goals that I'm currently in the middle of working towards, right? So celebrate yourself and you will feel less insignificant, because you're oh wow, I'm doing these cool things. I'm working on these cool things, and maybe they haven't come to fruition yet, or maybe they're still in the works, or maybe you had to restart again because there was so many issues. That's fine. But you're doing it. You are doing that thing. And a lot of people are not doing any things. So you need to celebrate that. Every single time you feel like you need to, do it. Don't think that you're overly doing it. You're doing it enough for you. You may not be doing enough for someone else, or you may be doing it too much for someone else, but you're doing it enough for you, and that's all that matters. Number 7. Number 7, create a plan to push you toward a goal. Create a plan. So if you create a plan, someone sees the video, they're going to be like, Sabrina, this is a silly little dance. Create a plan to push you towards a goal. Pick a goal. It can be a small goal. It doesn't have to be something big. No. It doesn't have to be something like, I feel like my planner journal, it's very, 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 very big. It's a big deal for me. But I could have picked a smaller goal. I could have picked a smaller goal in the same respect of like, okay, I'm just going to create like a notepad, right? A notepad that had like something encouraging on it every day. That would have been something smaller. In a totally different thing, a goal that I could have would be to, I don't know, I work out most days. So I think internally, I didn't like write it down, but internally I had a goal to be able to go at a faster cadence out of the saddle while I was riding the Peloton. Because at first, when I first started riding the Peloton, they were like, okay, we're out of the saddle. And I would be going, and I'm just like huffing and puffing and like, how are people doing this? And we also watch the Tour de France every summer. And I'm always very amazed, like, oh my gosh, how are these guys out of the saddle so much riding their bikes? It's intense. But that's like a goal, right? So I created a goal and I created like a plan in my mind. Again, this is one I didn't actually write down. But in my mind, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that when I'm doing these rides and they're doing out of the saddle, and they always give the option that you can sit, I need to not sit. And then when they give the option to like, okay, we're going to go for 3 minutes, I need to like just focus on, doing the minimum and then towards the end, trying to speed up and then really pushing myself to do more and more and more and not like chickening out and just like facing this pain and this fear and knowing I'm going to get better. And I have gotten better. So you're taking small steps. And for me, I was taking like small steps. I was like, okay, I'm not going to chicken out of this ride. I'm going to do this ride. And I know this person likes to do a lot of these things out of the saddle. Like, I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it. And so that was a goal. And that actually helps me feel not insignificant. And I remember the other day, like it was like earlier this week, where I was so excited that I was at the top of the leaderboard. And it was at the leaderboard that was who was riding at that moment. So it was not anything a big deal, you guys. But it was a big deal to me in the moment because I had worked so hard and was doing so well on my ride in that moment that I was at the top of 12 people, including myself, and I felt really good. I felt really great. So you need to take small steps. You need to find something that brings joy. Both of those things apply, and it doesn't have to be anything huge. So there it is. Another goal that I have that I actually am planning out is to make me feel not insignificant is packing because we're moving. And I need to take small steps. And it does bring me joy, but it's only going to bring me joy if I'm able to organize everything in the way that I want as opposed to just throwing everything in a box and just figuring it out later. No. So the way I'm having joy is to organize it all. And and that is the goal that I'm going to. And it's going to make me feel less invisible and insignificant because I know that I will be the one that's thanked when everything is organized, when we take all those boxes out. When we open them all up when we move, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it was easy to find everything because everything's labeled and we know where it was." And I know that I'm helping out my family to be as organized as possible in this move. So create a plan to push you towards a goal. That will definitely help. Number 8, the last one I have to share with you today on how to move away from these feelings of being invisible and insignificant. Put time into improving your self-confidence. Put time into improving your self-confidence. So if you want to improve your self-confidence, you need to start with working on self-awareness, which is understanding yourself better and like the emotions that you have and the reactions and the responses and how you think and everything else. So start with self-awareness and then also learn how to accept your mistakes and failures, which again are the best learning lessons ever. And I feel like I mention that in every episode. I don't know how, but I do. I don't know how, but I do. So yeah, work on self-awareness, work on accepting your mistakes and failures, and keep challenging yourself. Those are like 3 quick steps that you can do right now to improve your self-confidence. A lot of people would also throw in like, oh, just pretend you're confident right now. And I am not a believer in fake it till you make it. I'm not. I like to be real and vulnerable. And I understand that sometimes if you just force yourself to have that mindset, it will just naturally gel with who you are. But I don't believe in being fake. I would rather you just like slowly like work up to it because that is real. It's better to be real than fake. So whatever you want. But if that works for you, fake it till you make it work for you, fine. Live your life, do your thing. I just don't believe in that because again, for all the reasons that I already said. So self awareness, accept your mistakes and failures, and keep challenging yourself. Keep doing things that are hard outside of your comfort zone, things that you have failed in the past, things that people tell you that you cannot do. Do those things and more, right? And it's not that you're trying to show anyone up. Nope. Nope. Not necessarily for like bragging rights or clout. No, you're doing it for you. You're like, oh, I did this and I feel good. I feel really, really good. And if someone else is impressed along the way, hey, that's just like, it's an extra like chef's kiss on top of everything. But yeah, put time into improving your self confidence. Here's also a bonus tip that I'm not really going to talk about, but I know that's like a common one that people mention. And I thought it was a good one, but it's like a generalization, but I want to throw it in there because could help. Is that another way for you to be released from the mindset of feeling insignificant and small and invisible is to help other people, put in the time of helping other people with their life, giving back, volunteering. But I think the reason I didn't put this in the list now that I'm thinking about it is that I also talked a lot about people pleasing. And sometimes there's that line that people that are have that tendency to fall into that behavior will take that and just fall right into people pleasing. And I didn't really want to mention that. So if you don't struggle with people pleasing, then sure, help other people. And that will give you a sense of purpose and fulfillment as you're helping them. But if you struggle with people pleasing, do not do that. Try to stay away from that. Work on your people pleasing behaviors later. And eventually at some point, you will be able to do more of that without it like creating this new persona that you need to not be, that you just allow everyone to walk all over you and not have personal boundaries. Okay, well, that's all I have to say for this. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast again with me, Sabrina. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, prayer requests, feedback, topics, suggestions, check out the email address below in the show notes. Sign up to RSVP for the planner journal that is coming out very soon. And sign up for the weekly newsletter that's coming out Wednesday night. And thank you so much for downloading, listening, sharing the show. You guys are amazing. Check YouTube to watch the current episodes of the podcast that are up, and more will be soon. But until next time, have a good one, and I will see you all next time. Bye.